and live in life.
Let's proceed with our next meeting. Good evening and welcome to this May 28, 2025 meeting of the Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole? Oh, this is. Trustee Al-Shamaz?
Here.
Trustee Fisher?
Here.
Trustee Freed?
Here.
Trustee Hatch?
Here.
Trustee Rappin?
Here.
Trustee Ryder?
Here.
And President Charlo?
Here, thank you. Thank you very much. Please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda are awards and proclamation. First, that would be a proclamation designating June 2025 LGBTQ plus Pride Month. Whereas the battle for dignity, equality, and personal safety for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning people is reflected in the tireless commitment of the LGBTQ plus community, as well as dedicated advocates and allies who strive to forge a more inclusive society. And whereas President Bill Clinton on June 2nd, 2000, declared June Gay and Lesbian Pride Month to commemorate the June 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Lower Manhattan, and on June 1st, 2009, President Barack Obama expanded the commemoration further by declaring June to be Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Pride Month. And whereas LGBTQ plus Americans, including those who live in our local communities, face hate and discrimination simply for being who they are and for who they love, and there remains much work to do to extend the promise of our country to everyone, to every one person. And whereas the landmark Supreme Court decision of 2015 guaranteeing marriage equality in all 50 states was a historic victory for LGBTQ plus Americans, and continues to affirm our belief that we are all more free when we are treated as equal. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Régis Charlot, Village President of the Village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, do hereby proclaim June 2025 LGBTQ plus Pride Month in the Village of Lake Bluff, and call upon the people of Lake Bluff to wholeheartedly recognize the importance of LGBTQ plus to our village and nation, and to the progress we have made in ensuring equal treatment for all people. Thank you. And we have a second proclamation in support of growing native habitat, Lake Bluff's effort to obtain National Wildlife Federation certified wildlife habitat certification. Whereas Lake County, and more specifically Lake Bluff, possess an abundance of wildlife, woods, parks, and other natural habitats. And whereas the National Wildlife Federation Certified Wildlife Habitat Program, started in 1997, empowers citizens leaders to take action for wildlife in their own communities. And whereas Growing Native Habitat Lake Bluff, a grassroots organization, has approached the village about pursuing certification through the National Wildlife Federation Certified Wildlife Habitat Program. And whereas, we need to change that name. No. And thank you, Sue. Whereas requirements of a certification program includes having at least 150 homeowners in the community to complete an online form certifying that their yard provides the essential needs of wildlife, and providing educational opportunities for community members to learn best practices related to wildlife habitat on both private and public lands. And whereas at its May 20, 2025 meeting, the Village of Lake Bluff Sustainability and Community Enhancement Ad hoc Committee recommended that the Village Board support the Growing Native Habitat Lake Bluff Group efforts to obtain National Wildlife Federation certified wildlife habitat certification for the village of Lake Bluff, included but not limited to this proclamation. Now therefore, I, Régis Charlot, village president of the village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, do hereby proclaim support of a growing native habitat Lake Bluff group efforts to obtain National Wildlife Federation certified wildlife habitat certification for the village of Lake Bluff. Congratulations. Moving forward, next on our agenda are the consideration of the minutes of the May 12, 2025 regular village board meeting. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any changes?
I just wanted to make sure everybody saw that email was sent out earlier noting there was a minor change with a correction of trustee Eshelmas making a motion at the end of the meeting to adjourn as opposed to Clerk Hallen. So.
One other small comment here. Also present, I think we should say, Village Clerk Hallen. He was at the meeting
He was.
in his role.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Rafi. If there are no more changes to those minutes, it is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you. Next is item 5, our non-agenda items and visitors. The village president and board of trustees allocate 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the village board of trustees on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the village board of trustees is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. And I do not see anybody here willing to make a comment. Do we have anybody online willing to make a comment?
Anybody participating online through the village's Zoom meeting, please raise your hand now and you will be recognized to speak. No one is raising their hand.
All right. And I say we will move forward to setting the order of a meeting. And specifically, the village president and village board of trustees will entertain requests from anyone present on the order of business to be conducted during the village board meeting. And I do understand that a consent agenda, item 16 and item 17 would be next on our agenda. Without objection on the board? Moving forward to the consent agenda. The consent agenda tonight includes item 10, acceptance of a correspondence. Please note that all correspondence was delivered to the Village Board of Trustees in the informational report on May 9 and 16, 2025. Item 11, a second reading of an ordinance granting development concept plan approval and preliminary zoning variations and modifications for planned mixed-use development at 570 Evanston Avenue. Item 12, a second reading of an ordinance adopting a new comprehensive plan for the village of Lake Bluff. Item 13, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2003-3 to transfer a use variation and parking variations to allow the operation of a new automobile dealership for Lake Forest Sports Cars at 990 North Shore Drive. Item 14, a resolution amending Resolution 2017-6 to transfer signage exemptions, for Lake Forest Sports Cars, again, at 990 North Shore Drive. And item 15, a resolution authorizing the termination and release of a restrictive covenant for the Lansdowne subdivision. Now, I know that item 11 has been requested to be removed from the agenda
And continued until the next meeting.
and to be continued to the next meeting. Now, that does not preclude comments for this item that was on the agenda, by the way. Is there a request to remove any additional item from these items on the consent agenda?
Nope.
Nope. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 11?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I just want clarity, we're gonna remove it, we are gonna have comments on it tonight,
Yes.
if there are any, and then we will bring it back to the consent agenda,
It'll be,
or will it be off the consent?
it'll
agenda?
likely be off,
Okay,
but it'll be brought to the next meeting of the village, the next regular meeting, which I believe is the 9th of June.
okay.
But because it is on the agenda, we have a discussion today on
Yeah.
it, potentially. Any further discussion? No? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El Shamaz?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Fried?
Aye.
Trustee Hatch?
Aye.
Trustee Rappin?
Aye.
Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you. And the motion carries, but I also see residents that might be willing to speak on item 11, and so I will open discussion on this item if necessary.
Item 11,
Yes. Please state your name and your address.
evening. I am Jean Nemi Mills, and I live at 580 Evanston, which is directly north of the property that you are considering giving zoning relief to. I have lived here for 12 years, and when we moved here, we actually did take the extra step of looking at the village's zoning regulations and comprehensive plan to ensure a taller building could not be built there. What we were told is it would be a very long, arduous process to change zoning, and that it would be unlikely to happen given the mature trees that are on that lot, and the fact that it is not in the central business district. So it would not have the use of the PMD tool. There were two documents that gave us comfort moving forward with the purchase of our home: the village's zoning map showing it is in fact zoned single-family R4, and the even clearer document stating it was to remain open, or it is open space, and that multifamily housing would only be considered to the west of this property. I don't know if anyone wants to look at this, but I'm happy to leave it behind so everyone can see that. Thank you. So here we are 12 years later, and I can actually confirm it is a very arduous process to get zoning relief, and one that I unfortunately have to participate in given the village's desire to make this multifamily. This is my third time spending time away from my young family to attend these village meetings. And fight for our right as Lake Bluff residents to be able to trust in the village's current regulations. For years, myself and the surrounding neighbors have shared through multiple communications vehicles that we are in favor of more multifamily housing in Lake Bluff. We are in favor of more multifamily housing, but that this property is not suitable for it unless it remains under two stories or under. Over this time period, at least 2 different boards of Lake Bluff have agreed with us. So, after successfully ensuring no 3-story condo could be built on this lot for the second time, I went ahead, or my family and I went ahead, and did a nearly $1 million renovation to our house that was completed 2 years ago. I'm about to undertake another renovation of my master bathroom with a local contractor, and now here we are needing to fight this for yet a third time. I wanted to emphasize that I am a proud resident of our sweet Lake Bluff, and I am also a major contributor to many of the organizations in our town. So I wanted to offer a good faith effort to support the village's desire to have more multifamily units. I gave my support of the current condo building being built on the west lot of Block 3, Ballotunian and Whitmer, given that it is partially residing in the central business district. But many of us who supported this said it cannot set the precedent for the east part of Block 3, which we're discussing in the coming weeks. The question I have is really, what does 4 more units get the village when there are multiple other places to build, including, as the comprehensive plan has called out, to the south of the Park District and our golf course on Route 176? Additionally, there has been a ton of talk leading up to this about the need for senior housing. And this is definitely true, as we all know. But unfortunately, even if you raised your family in Lake Bluff, which is a well-to-do area, a $1 million+ condo is not realistic in retirement. Even so, in the beginning of this process, I decided to have numerous calls with the Trombleys and Mr. Dobbins to work with them to figure out how this could happen with current zoning, and if I could get to neutral to help them with this process, and also help the village with multifamily. During the time period when I was having initial conversations with the Trombleys and Dobbins, they sent out a petition that very clearly states they are looking to support for 2 stories. Please feel free to look at this one if you'd like. Well, we all know now that that petition was not truthful. I don't know about all of you, but I don't feel great about working with neighbors who clearly have no respect for their community, their neighbors, or this board. In an effort to increase their personal wealth, they have presented the community with outright lies about the use of this property. This is already a very emotional issue for me because this is my family's home. So I want to be clear. I don't agree personally with offering zoning relief because it impacts my property as well as many others. I now feel even less inclined to support given the dishonest tactics of the Trombleys. They knew the surrounding neighbors did not want 3 stories on this property, and many of us had spent hundreds of dollars to rally against it. So they were smart in putting that it was just 2 stories to try to get as much support as they can. Unfortunately, it was not truthful. However, we know there are many dishonest people in this world who gain favor with all kinds of inaccuracies. So allow me to take just a few more minutes to explain to you how this will affect my property personally. My master bedroom and my master bathroom will overlook this condominium, meaning that the residents of the condo will be able to see directly into my private spaces. Additionally, after telling me the driveway would be on Oak, it is now placed directly next to my driveway on Evanston and my side courtyard, which serves as my family's backyard. With the driveway in the current position, we will be able to hear the large commercial garage door going up and down throughout the day as the 8 residents go in and out of the driveway. Also, this is a very short block from the North Avenue stop sign to the Evanston and Scranton stop sign. So the traffic seems like it could be very much impacted right there, especially with the current 3 driveways that are there and pulling out, not to mention all of the young children that bike every day right past this corner to get to their schools. I remain confident in our village's board and ability and desire to protect its current citizens. However, if need be, I have started my own petition and received signatures from many of the same people who thought they were approving 2 stories from the Trombleys' petition. My sincere hope is I don't have to go to that extent yet again, and that my confidence is not misplaced. I would, in fact, be happy to be part of a larger group in the community that maybe could discuss possible multifamily housing opportunities. I know there was recently the comprehensive plan that was just redone, and there are many other places called out where 3 stories would be appropriate, and you'd actually be able to get more residents into them rather than just 4. So I thank you for your time. I will continue to attend these meetings, and I appreciate you giving me a few minutes, even though it wasn't on it moved from the agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the benefit of the board, Drew and I met with Jean Naomi already discussing these points. Please state your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Tom Dobbins. I saw you a couple weeks ago. I'm the architect for the project. I wasn't really expecting to come tonight, but I was watching on television and thought it would be important after seeing Jean speak that you maybe heard the other side. You know, we're really proud, frankly, of the support we've gotten from the village on this subject. We worked really hard. We said that we wouldn't pursue this project unless the village was behind it. We went to the PCZBA 3 times. We unanimously got it supported and recommended for approval the last time we were there. We've been in front of the ABR. They, of course, had some comments, but nothing significant. And then we were here just 2 weeks ago, and I know we had a quorum, but there are a few of you that weren't here, but you unanimously supported the ordinance. We asked for it to be continued because some new information was presented just yesterday, and we need a little more time to sort that out, frankly. But I'm here to tell you, and I talked to Jean frankly, this afternoon. I'm very disappointed that I can't get Gene to even neutral, but you've heard me say that many times, especially if you've watched the other presentations. All of the other neighbors, the Morawskis, the Reeses, Lemieux, and Kluchkas, have shown up to meetings, written emails in support of this project. In fact, George Russell, at one of the PCZBA meetings, I'm quoting him, he goes, "I've been seeing projects on this corner for 15 years, and I have never seen that group of neighbors support anything. It's the first time I've seen that group support any project, so that's one of the reasons I'm in favor of it." We have worked incredibly hard to have as little impact on Gene's property as possible. I'll go through the several things we talked about just this afternoon that she didn't like. I mean, again, I'm not saying our design is perfect. Let's start with the driveway, okay? The driveway is close to her driveway. It is the only place that is reasonable for the design of the project as we've conceived it. That driveway could be there. In fact, it could probably be 2 feet away from her property line if it was a single-family home. We've asked for a variance of 34 feet, exactly what the single-family zoning is. We have pulled the north edge of our building several feet back from the single-family setback, and the second floor that Jean is worried about with the views into her house are another 6 foot back. And by the way, the 34-foot variance is 150 feet from her property. We are maintaining the big evergreens along her property. We're doing everything we can to save the oak trees. You've heard me tell all about that. We are trying to do the right thing for Lake Bluff. It may not be the right thing for Jean. I would disagree, we respectfully disagree with her, but I think given the feedback, we've gotten an awful lot of support. I will say one last thing. The petition that Jean just passed around was an honest mistake. The petition is meaningless. The petition Jean is circulating is pretty much meaningless. We got hundreds of signatures, not because they thought it was 2 stories, because they like the design, they think it's good for the corner. So I just respectfully ask you to maintain your positions that you last had and respect what the PCZBA had to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Are we having discussion, or I don't?
It's entirely up to you. It's not on the agenda for action officially at this
I mean,
point.
I think we have a hefty agenda, and I'm torn between really digging in on some of these issues that do matter to me as well. Perhaps I will table it if we are going to keep it off the consent agenda for next round and save my thoughts. And then Jean, I would welcome and hope that Jean would return, as well as any other neighbors who have concerns, so that it could be a thoughtful and meaningful discussion.
I agree. I'd hate to have the discussion today and then have it the next time as well.
Okay.
I agree.
Shayna, Rafi,
Logic
Susan?
makes sense to me.
Sure.
Okay. Could you please both be back in 2 weeks from now? Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is item 16, and that would be an ordinance amending section 10-78-6 of Title 10 of the Municipal Code regarding storage and loading in the L1 Industrial District. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Noting the presence of existing outdoor storage in the L1 area north of State Route 176 and east of US Route 41, the PCZBA discussed a possible text amendment to allow for outside storage in the specific area, provided it was behind the building, screened by a fence, and that stored materials did not exceed the height of a fence. In early 2025, village staff worked with Douglas & Co. tenants at 35 North Skokie Highway and current outdoor storage user to draft a zoning text amendment to allow outdoor storage in the L1 district north of State Route 176 and east of US Route 41, following ABR review. During discussions, Douglas & Co. noticed the existing L1 requirement that all loading or unloading areas must be wholly enclosed within a building and asked for that language to be amended as well to allow loading or unloading areas that are not wholly enclosed within a building, which staff added in. At its May 21st, 2025 meeting, the PCZBA forwarded a unanimous favorable recommendation to the Village Board on the proposed zoning text amendment, subject to the condition that the guidelines suggest an opaque fence and that no hazardous material are kept in any outdoor storage area. Any comment on the board? Any questions?
Yes.
And I trust we have people representing this text here if you want to make a comment about this text. And I do not see comments on either side of the dais. And so it is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries, so congratulations.
It's first reading. We'll be back second meeting, or first meeting in June, but.
And next item is item 17, an ordinance granting variations from the ravine setback regulations at 1800 Shore Acre Road. Is there a motion to approve this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. On December 13, 2024, the Village of Lake Bluff received a zoning variations application from contractor Jeff Tondola on behalf of property owner Manny Hegwer, requesting variations to alter an existing non-conforming swimming pool, spa tub, terrace, and deck, all of which do not currently meet the required ravine setbacks at 1800 Shore Acres Drive. More specifically, the proposed work includes changing the size layout of a pool and deck terrace, squaring them off, moving the spa tub so that it no longer extends completely beyond the top ravine edge, and decreasing the size of a deck to the west. The PCZBA held a public hearing on January 15, 2025, and continued this matter as updated plans and photos were needed. The matter was continued again in February, March, and April. Since the first public hearing, the applicant provided drone photos and updated the plan by cantilevering the deck and reducing the overall size of a deck terrace. Variations are still required due to the encroachment of a swimming pool, spa tub, terrace, and deck into the required setbacks. Per the village engineer, the ravine slope under the existing deck appears stable and existing deck foundations have not caused the ravine to erode. The PCZBA held the continued public hearing on May 21st, 2025, and forwarded a unanimous favorable recommendation on the request of the village board, to the village board.
And Mr. Jeff Tondola is here if there are any questions for him on behalf of the owner, Manny Hegwer.
Questions on the board?
I have a question. I don't know what the word cantilevering means, and I want to know what it means.
Jeff, you want to give the engineer's definition, but essentially it means overhanging, like if the slope is like this, it hangs out over it.
Right.
And it's cantilevered is that there's supports are on it. So it's the vertical supports to marry up to grade are not straight up and down. They are angled.
Understood.
Is that?
Pretty close. It just means there's no piers for the deck. It's all supported from the wall with like a triangular brace, kind of like you hang a,
Like a shelf.
like a shelf, yeah.
Can you just 2 seconds, 2 minutes on it? My read of this is that seems like everything's okay. Seems like the ravine's okay. I would like a little bit more of a, it's totally okay vibe.
So we have lots of ravines in Lake Bluff that are 40 feet, almost straight down, trees blocking the sunlight from growing grass. This is, I don't want to say 10 to 15 feet. It's a little more gently sloped. There's none of the Norway maples that block out the sun and make the soil exposed, and when it rains, it erodes. The only real erosion, I think, is coming from this spot is where the existing pool has leaked. So they have piers in the ground right now in the ravine, which are not legal with today's code, but I think they were put in before that was written, so everything was built legally. But they would take those out and then cantilever it because our code does not allow piers for decks. You can have a deck that overhangs the ravine, not a bluff, but a ravine, but you can't put supports in. So initially, they had a plan to put new piers in, and they've changed their plan to meet that section of our code by hanging essentially the shelf bracket supports from the wall from the pool. So like I said, this ravine being more open in the sunshine and flatter than some of our others and shorter is really, it's been no issues that it's going to fail or have any
Okay.
kind of slide.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. Any more questions to Jeff on the board? No? And so it is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Congratulations. And so now resuming the normal order of business, and that would be, next item is 7A, and that would be our warrant report for May 13 to May 28, 2025. Is there a motion to approve this warrant report?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. And as a summary, this warrant report is for expenditure of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $360,032.50 for May 13 to May 28, 2025, for total expenditure of $360,032.50. Are there any questions on the board to Drew and Bettina? No. I looked at the ledger. I did not see anything I would question. It's a roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Fried?
Aye.
Trustee Hatch?
Aye.
Trustee Rappin?
Aye.
Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Thank you.
I didn't vote.
Trustee El Shammaz?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So next item on, this is a clerk.
Clerk on clerk.
Battle of the clerks.
Thank you, Rafi. Next item is item 7B, and this is our April 2025 financial report. With Bettina being online, would you like to give us this report, or should Bettina do it?
I'd be happy to answer any questions. Bettina is online. I think generally, again, as we talked about earlier in the committee, the whole meeting, revenues are trending higher than anticipated and expenses are on. Nothing really remarkable in there. Yeah.
Any questions to Bettina or Drew? No? It is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. And that would be, next would be our village administrator's report.
I would like to have one of our interns, Sage Joseph, come up and give the annual farmers market report.
Okay, so on Friday, June 6th, the Lake Bluff Farmers Market welcomed patrons for the 32nd consecutive year. The Farmers Market was first established in 1993 to support and bring visitors to Lake Bluff's central business district. And part of today's strategic plan and goals and the success of the market cultivates connection among Lake Bluff residents and bolsters economic vitality in our downtown. And over the past 32 years, our market has been recognized as one of the best in Chicagoland by major media outlets. The 2025 Farmers Market season will run Friday mornings from June 6th to October 10th, 7 a.m. to noon, and there will be no Farmers Market on Friday, July 4th, which does fall on a Friday this year. We would like to thank Beth McKenna and Philip Ross, who have created this year's artwork piece that you might see around Lake Bluff coming up soon. And we would also like to thank Lake Forest Bank and Trust, who has agreed to sponsor the market for the 3rd year in a row. The committee aims to provide a wide variety of produce, baked goods, flowers, and specialty products. At this time, the farmers market has accepted 36 vendors, 30 of which are returning from the 2024 season, and the committee has accepted a number of new faces this season, including Awesome Mini Donuts, which will sell donuts and fresh lemonade, Para Farms, which will sell vegetables, jams, salsas, and flowers, Forest Greens Juice Bar, which will sell juice, wellness shots, and smoothies, Greco Greens, which will sell microgreens, salad dressings, and nutrient toppers, Fourth Dimension Flavors, which will sell soups and chili, and Posey Flower Farm, which will sell flowers. Now, with our special events and entertainment, the market hosts a number of other activities to encourage traffic and provide fun and entertainment for patrons. The 2025 schedule includes musical entertainment at each market, RC Juggles Balloon Artist, which will be through June 13th through July 25th, the Lake Bluff Library Children's Activities, which is June 13th through August 15th, and then the Corn Roast, which is tentatively scheduled for August 8th. And we would like to thank and recognize the work of those who have contributed to the successful planning of the market's 32nd season, including our Farmers Market Committee, which includes co-chair Daria Andrews, co-chair Lise Martin, Sean Bjork, Deb Dintriff, Adrian Fawcett, Catherine Leader, Sarah Raymore-Winneck, Kathy Shepard, Frank Pony Swanton, and Kathleen Gridley Swanton. We'd like to thank our market manager, Kate Cole, and most of all, our customers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sage. And again, Sage, welcome to being our intern and working for our village. Thank you.
The only other thing I would add is we do have a business operator here in town, longtime business owner as well, until recently, Rick Mancuso from Lake Forest Sports Cars, who obviously loves local government because he's staying after his item was approved, first reading. Rick, I don't know if you have anything you want to say to the board at all. I'm certainly happy to hand my mic over to you.
You know, all of a sudden, I found out I said oldest, it means most experienced Ferrari dealer in North America. There's 44 dealers, 176 in the world. And we've been in Lake Bluff for almost 20 years now, and then in Lake Forest for 20 years. And so we've seen a lot of changes. We've seen our business double and almost triple at some point. And over the last few years, we've had inquiries from actually all over the world, from the Middle East to people that want to buy the business and so forth. And it's been a family-run business. And we were approached by a number of different people, none of which seemed to align well with our values for family values, non-public company, non-Wall Street company, approach from Middle East, Germany, UK, Scandinavia, Far East, South America, US, public and private groups. And we met in Wall Street. We met a bunch of real colorful characters, none of which we were comfortable with. And we had sold the Zigglers, and it's Mike Connolly, who's the general manager of the whole group there. It's a family-run operation. We sold Harold Ziegler, the patriarch, a car, I think about 25 or 30 years ago. And so we knew the family well, and they know my family, and Ferrari made part of the transition where we could join their group. One of the requirements that we keep it family-run because Ferrari's a family company. So the alignment was good, the timing was good, and it offers stability, it offers security and a lot of opportunity for not only my family, but my family of staff at the dealership and our operation here in Lake Bluff, which we've worked together so well over the years. It's been a real delight to be here. It's been one of the really well-received dealerships around the whole country because of the way that we're able to do business with you, and we appreciate what you've done over the years for us. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying involved to help teach the culture of Ferrari a little bit and keep involved in the motorsports programs, and we'll be doing other presentations, I'm sure, at some point, but we had an invitation last time I think I was up here to have you come by and tour what we do over there. That remains open. We'd love to have you over and see it. We're working on some other expansion areas in the area for additional storage and things like that. But I'm thanking you. It's been just a really nice relationship, and we appreciate all you've done to help us. We've gotten great advice from Drew over the years and a number of you. So it's been well received, and it's been effective and deeply appreciated.
Thank you.
Welcome to Ziegler's. They're a great family and family run, family values. Met their kids, met the family, know the father. Feels good. Feels right.
Rick, speaking to Drew, Drew disclosed how many cars you're selling a year. I was absolutely floored by the type of business you have been building, especially selling expensive cars like Ferraris. So from a village standpoint, I'm very appreciative what you have built that benefits us also in this village for having you as a business.
Well,
So
they're
thank
very
you.
kind to say that. I mean, it's been an interesting journey. As I was telling people that I've been on that Ferrari runway for a long time, for 43 years, and for a lot of those years, we've had a tailwind. And we've had some tough times, make no doubt about it. I'll tell people there's been 3 times that I've been face down on the mat and heard the 9 count. And at that moment, you decide to get up or you decide to lay down and die. And I was just probably too, as I like to say, ignorant and stubborn to know that that you keep getting up, you're still in the fight. And we did that because everything was so treasured and so valuable to us. But looking back where we started with 1982, when prime was 21.5%, interest rates were 2 points over, and I had a startup sports car company with myself in an empty building on Western Avenue, where the 2 Ford dealers there before us had gone bankrupt. We didn't have a lot of support from lenders at that point. And all I had to show was 3 mortgages and an overdraft and a consignment car. And no real business plan, because I didn't have the ability to put one together except a really desire to be around sports cars my whole life. So we were lucky to be in an area where that became well received. And we've seen the business grow. In the early years, in the 80s, we would sell 20 or 30 new Ferraris a year and 10 or 15 used. Last year, we sold 129 new Ferraris. We sold 109 used, did $140 or $50 million in sales. And our positioning within Ferrari is a top 5 rating within the network in North America. We were, and I'm not bragging, it's the team. This is not me. This is the team of people that are there in the perfect setting, which is the Lake Bluff area, in the perfect building, with the perfect support from you, from the police, from fire, from everybody else. It's been a real team effort all the way through this. We were voted a top 3 service and technical department in the world, which is really something I'm kind of proud of, because that didn't happen overnight. So it's been an interesting journey, and it's still going. I'm not going anywhere other than to help support what we're doing here and to bring it up to the next level, which they certainly have the capability to do. It's a great organization. I'm real proud to be a part of it. My daughter will stay involved. My sons are staying involved, and we're going to continue the family traditions and values that are so important here. So I thank you.
Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
That's my report.
Nicely
Thank
done.
you.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Next on the agenda is next on the agenda would be item 18, a resolution adopting a policy for displays on village property. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. During June 2023, the village board first discussed requests from residents to display an LGBTQ+ pride flag in the downtown area in a place of prominence during the month of June each year in recognition of the importance of the LGBTQ community in our village and nation. These conversations continued into the next month when a draft flag policy based on other communities' policy was discussed, and village trustees expressed varying opinions on the inclusion of a pride flag and other cultural flags. While no consensus was reached at that time, the board indicated a desire to discuss the flag policy at future meetings. Over the following months, village staff continued to research how other communities celebrate Pride Month and other cultural heritages, as well as talk with local partners, school district, park district, church leaders, regarding their policies and practices. On May 12, 2025, the board met as a committee of the whole to revisit the original request and various policy alternatives, including the City of Highland Park's policy for displays on city-owned property and the City of Evanston number of cultural heritage celebrations through the year. At the conclusion of the meeting, the board directed the village administrators and village attorney to prepare a policy for display on village property for consideration that included the following national recognitions: Black History Month, Women's History Month, Asian American Pacific Highlander Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, LGBTQ Pride Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Native American Heritage Month, and Disability Employment Awareness Month. The attached draft policy includes this recognition as well as allows for certain village holiday celebrations on village property. Any comment on the board?
One comment I will make is that there was an oversight in the list of that's in policy and 4, as you just recited. I took a look to make sure that we had been comprehensive and recognized that April, or perhaps it's May. April is Arab American Heritage Month. And I think, given the list there, that we should include that one.
Wholeheartedly agree.
How is the board reacting to this request from Susan? Rafi?
Agree.
Shayna, yes. Rafi?
I think that's a great addition. I have some other comments.
Thank you. Just for this item first. Kat and Steve, what do you feel about that?
I don't have an issue with it being added.
I don't either.
Okay, so unanimously the board agrees with Susan on adding Arab American Month as April. Do we have other comments? Rafi?
I have some prepared comments I'd like to share with the group. Pretty passionate topic for me, so I wanted to capture my thoughts. So to start, I want to express my strong support for the causes that you've highlighted in this resolution. I want to call them out by name: Black History Month, Women's History Month, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Jewish American Heritage Month, LGBTQ Pride Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Native American Heritage Month, and Disability Employment Awareness Month. I strongly support these causes. I have a personal connection to many of them. I still, having said that, don't think it's in the best interest of the village to adopt this policy in its current form for 2 reasons. The first reason is the exclusive nature of the resolution. If the goal of the resolution is to be inclusive, in my opinion, what the resolution actually does is create an exclusive group of causes that our village supports. It neglects to include Disability Pride Month, LGBT History Month, Low Vision Awareness Month, American Heart Month, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, Childhood Obesity Awareness Month, Impaired Driving Awareness Month, Fireworks Safety Month, Men's Health Education and Awareness Month. If that list seems exhaustive, it's actually not. It doesn't include so many other important issues, and even issues that I'm not familiar with. Although my personal views, I think flagpoles on village property should only fly government flags. If this resolution provided a path to make flagpoles open, equal, and fair to all groups, even and especially groups that we disagree with, I would be supportive of this resolution. The last time we talked about this, Trustee Fishers agreed, and she said if other groups want to ask to fly their flags, let's have those conversations. So I would be supportive of a flag policy if it was open and fair to all groups. Secondly, getting into the weeds of the resolution, is the non-secular issue. The resolution specifically calls out that these displays do not promote a non-secular organization or event. And that's in paragraph 3, item 6, bullet E. So to continue that, 3 non-secular organizations and events that this resolution would block are our annual Christmas tree display in the village gazebo. Last year, we also welcomed a beautiful menorah display on the village green, and even in this resolution contradicts itself, highlighting Jewish American Heritage Month. I respect all 3 of those, and I couldn't support a resolution that bans them, which this one does. I don't think our community knows that tonight we're voting on getting rid of the Christmas tree display at the gazebo. I'd like to end by saying our village is a friendly and safe community, and the most important thing is that everyone knows that they're welcome in Lake Bluff. I understand what this resolution is trying to accomplish, but in my opinion, it does the opposite and is very divisive. And for that reason, I couldn't support it today, but I would like to hear more from the community. Thank you.
I'd love to just address some of your really well thought out and eloquently voiced concerns. And I want to thank you on your first full night on the panel. I knew you'd bring a meaningful discourse, and you're delivering. So thank you for everything you just said. So one thing that I noticed in the reading when I read, and with a fine-tooth comb as well, is there's a thing that Kat and I see a lot in our day jobs, which is discretion. So a lot of times when we are drafting settlement documents, legal documents that people have to follow, is a roadmap to their life after divorce. That's where we work pretty much every day. There's no possible way to plan a roadmap that says all the things, that can foresee all the things that are going to come before a family as they go down the path of 2 households instead of 1. And so we often build in language, and also if some of us are involved in drafting statutes for family law, we build in language that gives the court discretion to make good calls when having to decide for a family what's best for them or what is most equitable for the community. And I think that the language in this in this policy provides that discretion. I mean, specifically in this list, it does say that it displays for other local civic activities as approved by resolution of the village board. I don't agree with you that this actually bans the other events that we have enjoyed. And if we need to fine tune this the provisions herein to make it clear that this would not impact our ability to celebrate Christmas in the village green, to have the Christmas trees, to have holiday celebrations, I would be completely on board with adding any sort of language that we might need to hammer that through. And I will also add that it is uncomfortable for me. I hate having to address or advocate as a Jewish Lake Bluffer. But I caught that. I caught that same concern as I read, which is Judaism is a religion. It's also a culture. And so the lines are constantly blurred, and I choose to read this as celebrating heritage and not so much in a secular sense, and not so much the scripture or the practice of the religion. But again, I would be very willing to work with you to look at the language on how we can continue to keep this as an invitation for expansiveness in honoring and celebrating our community's diversity.
So what we're saying, and I will try to summarize, and I'm going to get beaten up on that one, for what the 2 of you said, that is actually important. Number 1, we're not trying to prevent Christmas trees. Let's make that very clear, okay? We're not here to prevent Christmas trees on the green, okay? Let's make that very clear from the start. Rafi said there is an exclusive nature to that resolution, and there is a non-secular issue. Those are the 2 things you said. What Terence says is, no, the exclusive nature is actually, from your experience, is not there, or we cannot really build for it.
I think what Rafi did a great job at emphasizing that there is an exhaustive list that we couldn't possibly capture. And my answer to that is we draft so that we and whoever is sitting here in the future can continue to address those and vote on those as they come. So, but, you know, I'd love to hear from our legal, you know, the legal voice to weigh in and answer some of those questions as well.
And when I said Christmas tree, also meant menorahs, by the way, okay?
Well, and Rafi, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So how is it that it doesn't bar Christmas trees or menorahs? Because to Rafi's point, it seems like those are non-secular, although perhaps Christmas trees are better winter decoration than they are secular, but, or non-secular. But can we respond to that? I mean, have we attempted to draft around the holiday tree, or we just think it's not truly a religious symbol?
Well, I think Section 2, Number 2, explicitly states that displays for holidays and related decorations are allowed by this policy.
I see. So even if they are religious in
The
nature?
village is acknowledging that has been the past practice and the community culture, and the idea of continuing that. This does not stop that. In fact, it gives it the express authority to continue. That's the way it was intended to be drafted.
If someone donated a creche, would we put the creche on the?
That would be up to you all.
A what? I didn't hear what.
A creche, a nativity scene.
So what we're saying here is, from an inclusion from a group standpoint, Christmas end of year displays are okay by Section 2. That a Christmas tree and menorah are okay in effect, or anything else that goes under the same lines end of year. That, to your point, and I forgot about that the Jewish American can be either expressed as a cultural event or as a religious event. And so from a non-secular issue or secular issue, it might be debatable for the list we have in the resolution. That's the basic point.
For what it's worth, I had a conversation with Courtney earlier today. We were talking about how could one view that Jewish American Heritage Month, and we talked about, well, Black History Month doesn't mean the village is supporting a specific organization like the NAACP. It's not, so that's not necessarily an organization per se. There's not a LLC or a non-for-profit that functions as, to my knowledge, as the Jewish American Heritage Month that I could find. So just for what it's worth.
Right, it's not a specific organization. And again, we're talking about government speech, this is not a public forum. We haven't designated specifically for a flagpole, we can break it out depending on what we've put in the gazebo, if we've already designated that area of the village as a public forum, but breaking it down to at least flags that we fly, we're talking about government speech. So the village can pick and choose things to commemorate, like the list that we have, like Taryn pointed out, any other display for other local civic activities, which is supposed to give that broad discretion brought back to the village board, approved by resolution. But again, because we're talking about government speech, it's not subject to the free speech protections under the First Amendment. So government speech is not required to be viewpoint neutral or give equal weight to time and to all viewpoints. So it can be, pick and choose. It is designated as far as, then that's flagpoles specifically. So I think the policy, like Drew said, also is you know, we added in displays for holiday and related decoration. So we're not trying to be exclusive, but at the same time, we are talking about government speech. So you do have the ability to pick and choose which ones, because we haven't designated a flagpole as a public forum or even a limited public forum for that purpose. So, but again, that's up, I mean, it's your decision, but there's a distinction there.
Thank you, Courtney. Any, Rafi, you want to go next?
So I think that there's a way to remedy my one issue with the non-secular events. It seems like my other issue on the exclusivity, to the last time we had this conversation when Tara brought up, she'd be happy to see other groups coming before the board and we could say yes or no to them. I would love to see a flag policy, and I would vote yes tonight on every one of the organizations and causes listed. But as it is written now, it is not open and fair for anybody else to come with their issue.
So from our conversation on the COW 2 weeks ago, we had made that available. We had opened that door, that possibility to adding to that list.
I think the major point that Rafi's bringing to the table is that, you know, Taryn talked about discretion, but that's the whole point. Like, there really you shouldn't have discretion in these areas if you want to be really open and inclusive, because then you are making decisions on who to exclude within that analysis. And I think that based on that, I won't support the policy as written.
You would or you would not?
Would not. No,
This current policy?
correct.
Okay.
Would it fix the issue for the policy to have language in it that says, any Lake Bluff resident who wishes to bring forward an additional, cause or subject for public display or for government display, can do so, and if it meets the criteria here, it will be heard by the village trustees, and just to make it clear that there's a process, essentially, to do that?
As long as there truly is a process and it's open to any organization, then yeah, it would resolve that for me.
I think we all agree there is a process, it's just not described here, and the process would be for someone to come forward and ask for an amendment to the policy to include.
I don't like picking out certain organizations and certain months to support. And then putting it on the village to then have to come forward like a member. You're opening such a can of worms. I don't really know how we're supposed to manage that, and how much time is that going to take up, and is that every single meeting? And how are we going to deal with if there is, a bad actor or a group that is insulting? Like, I don't like it.
In terms of the bad actor, I thought we had addressed that with the language that speaks to, not permitting, I thought it was in here, anything discriminatory, disparaging, defaming, et cetera.
Sure, I mean, it's all up for, every single one of those words can be debated, and with whoever brings something forward, right? Like, what about National Gun Month? There are a lot of people who own guns and who, are very proud of that fact, and are we gonna fly a gun flag? That's my concern.
We'd have a discussion. Again, the way I feel about this is I'm not in the business of creating government that protects and bubbles us from doing our job. Our job here is to talk to our community and listen and make decisions on their behalf. So if somebody comes in every single meeting with their 3 minutes, to present their 3 minutes of why they think National Gun Month should be honored, I will listen. And if there's a huge amount of people here to talk about it, everybody knows how I feel about guns. I'm pretty involved in gun sense legislation. But if there is a community here that is going to convince this panel that it makes sense, then that is government. That's how it works. Now, if it's somebody coming in here who wants to fly something truly, and I think we all know what is hate speech and what isn't, something that's offensive and harmful for our community, I think we are able to make those hard decisions, or we should be, because that's what we signed up for. But I'm I understand both of your concerns, and I deeply respect them, and I want our community to hear us having these conversations. So I'm thrilled that you're both raising the concerns. But I think we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater by not doing what so many other communities across our nation are doing, which is reminding the members of our community that they are seen and that we're here to support them.
Suzanne, you were looking at me.
Yeah, it's not typical of me, but I decided to prepare remarks so I could be specific about my reasons that I would vote no were we to vote today. Despite having reached general agreement at the Committee of the Whole meeting that including additional disenfranchised groups, large groups, would make me comfortable with the policy, upon further reflection, I'm a no vote as written for 3 reasons. First, I was recently reelected, albeit uncontested, after voicing my opposition to the earlier draft of the policy that would have extended use of flagpoles to other than government flags. That was the bright line that I was suggesting. Those who voted for me in this uncontested election may or may not have viewed this as a promise, but I do feel the need to be consistent with my prior perspective on this, as so clearly stated. While we've modified this policy, the one that's being reviewed tonight, to be more inclusive, it certainly isn't intended to be exclusive, but to be more inclusive of other nationally recognized disenfranchised groups, and therefore more acceptable to me. I do not feel that we've had adequate community discussion on this point, and so feel compelled to stay to my earlier position. Second, I firmly believe that as elected officials, I do not have the right to speak for everyone in this community without first hearing their input. Today, I purchased a Progress Pride flag, and on June 1, it will be up in front of my house. But before I did that, I talked to my husband and my 2 daughters to ensure that they agreed with the symbolism that I felt strongly about putting on my house. And they did, but they had the opportunity to tell me if they had a concern about it. I don't feel as if my husband married me and thereby agreed with every policy or decision I might make, right? Or my children who had no choice whatsoever. So I talked to them before I did that. I think in order to, before we speak on behalf of the government, we need more input. Since our community was not actively involved in this discussion, I don't think we've taken the community's input on this issue. Although, Regis, you may have had some other discussions with people, my informal discussions with people have been somewhat not opposed to the pride flag in particular, but concerned about extending the flag's poles to something other than the government flags. Third, at the recent Committee of the Whole meeting, my words from 2 years ago were recounted to me as having been concerned about the slippery slope that expanded our use of the flagpoles. And I believed that it would open that slippery slope. I believe the revisions to the policy somewhat mitigate that, in my opinion. However, I do agree that we've not included everyone here we may need to include, although I appreciate the inclusion of the Arab Americans. And we may have included some that we ought not to have included, depending on your definition of what is secular and not as not secular. If it passes here today, I'll be glad to know that we have these expanded definitions. I think it better reflects an inclusive community to have other marginalized groups that do not have adequate representation and are not seen, and literally are not seen in our community, represented here in the policy. So I will feel good about that. And legal counsel has provided us information that we can pick and choose, and that both good and bad. I don't know what to make of that. I still believe that if we include something if we decided to post the Ukrainian flag and somebody wanted us to post the Russian flag, we would at least have to consider whether we wanted to have both flags. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so but it makes me concerned that we'd be in the position of picking and choosing. And I am aware that that we are voted on to make hard decisions. I think we are voted on to make hard decisions after we have considered the feelings of more than a few people. And therefore, we should look all the way down the road to those hard decisions rather than make the easy decision now, which I would agree with you, would be an easy decision. I think having the pride flag up would be remarkable and beautiful, and I intend to have it on my porch. But just because the easy decision could be made today doesn't make it the right decision for the long term. And so my vote no will be while I proudly fly the Progress Pride flag on my own house. So for those reasons, if we move forward, I would be voting no tonight.
Thank you, Suzanne. Any more comments on the board? Kat, you have expressed already your non-comfort with that resolution.
Right.
Yeah.
Regis, I think everybody here should share, so I'll share my thoughts, even though they're redundant with some other folks. This is one of the hardest topics in my 5 years on the board that we've covered. And it's really important, right? We want to be seen as an inclusive community. We want to be welcoming to everybody. I, like Susan, and I said this a year ago, would be proud to fly a pride flag on my lawn. I think that the policy, as written, or just in general, there's a reason why many communities have stayed away from this policy, because it is fraught with time-consuming, choicefulness, potentially being divisive, for us to be the arbiters, and that bothers me. I think that there has to be a way to share with the outside world that we are an inclusive community that doesn't burden this board with consistently having to assess the values that people present in front of us. When I think about myself as a trustee, I think about my role of making sure that Lake Bluff is a vibrant community, that we have a vibrant downtown, that we have, it's financially viable, that it's safe. And where I start getting uncomfortable, and Susan alluded to this, is when I start feeling like I'm expressing the values of the community without the input of the community. And I love the idea of people being able to make their individual choice. I will fly a pride flag. Susan will fly a pride flag. And we should have them all over this community in a very meaningful way. But I think for this board, this is overly complicated. It will be no matter which way we craft it. And I don't think that we should be the arbiters of what makes sense and what doesn't. It's not the best use of our time.
Thank you, Steve.
I see how this vote is going, so let me just say a few words. Remember when pickleball was a big deal and we had a room full of people here to talk to us about how upset they were? And they came up, person after person after person, to voice their opinion that we changed the time of when they could play pickleball at the Park District. Look at the room right now, guys. This is not secret. This has been on our agenda over and over again. I think we can take this room as a sign that we are here. Progress is happening. If people were upset, they would be in the room yelling at us. I respect you all so deeply. I think this is actually the easy way out of not voting for it. It is preventing and patting us in from having to talk to our community about things they want to see us do. So I'm gonna probably be back here next time with some other ideas, and they might be bigger and more rainbowy, and you all are gonna have to deal with it. I think one flag is cost efficient, it is respectful, it is subtle, and what, I'll also tell you, I've always flown a flag, and every year somebody has ripped it off my house. So, and I know that that's happened to many other community members. So those people who are actually flying the flag because it means something to them personally, to their children, to their spouse, we have a number of community members who have come out to tell me how happy they are and how proud they are that we are speaking up for them finally. When their flag is ripped down, but we have it up in our community saying the village stands with you no matter what, that would have been a really nice gesture. But, there is always next month and next year.
Thank you.
Regis?
Yes, I am going to answer to that one. My first comment is we did not get elected to this board to represent our single voices. We're here to represent the community. We're here to represent the people that have voted for us and the community at large, and our intelligence to understand what is right for the community. We might not have 6,521 people talking to us today, but you know how people feel. Now, that's the first thing. The second thing is I've been spending the last 2 years speaking with people, being with school leaders, with people telling me that people committed suicide, okay, because they did not feel loved in this community, okay? There's, I think, 10% of a community with LGBTQI+, whatever that means, you understand me. 60% of these kids think about committing suicide, 60%, okay? Of the same population of this 10%, 30% attempt suicide. You are all parents on this board, okay? What does that mean? That means the only thing I'm here for is, well, there's a whole list of things here, okay? And you know what? I'm all for it. Because we show support. I've come to this community and you know what? I was not accepted as a foreigner. I'm white, but I opened my mouth, I'm not accepted, okay? Now, if I have a brown skin, if I'm Pacific Islander, born American, I'm still not accepted. If I'm Hispanic, being in this community, I'm not accepted, okay? We're making an effort to actually show acceptance. In the LGBT+ case, we're making an extra effort to be loving, accepting, welcoming, and say, you are okay here, okay? That is what we're doing. And if it takes a stupid flag on top of a flagpole, whatever the flagpole is, to say, you are welcome here, that's all it takes. And if we can show at the same time that our neighbors are okay with us, even though our neighbors might be in their house, whoever they are, thinking, I'm not welcome here, and we achieve that goal at the same time, oh my God, we did something right. And it costs nothing to do, okay? That is why I stand here. I've spoken to people in the school. I've heard stories. I have seen the face of our superintendent when I said, you know what, we need to do something about that. And she said, oh my God, that would be awesome. Because we show acceptance towards our kids. Our kids would not feel at home, even though they were born here. Okay? That is important. If we can do one thing right, that is important. Understand. Any more comments on the board? So it is a voice vote.
You have somebody from the public.
Okay,
Ask for public
let's do
comment.
that.
We have a member of the Zoom meeting.
We have
we also have a
somebody
member.
here.
And
Dave, do you want to address the board?
David Graff, 111 East Prospect. Thank you for the opportunity. as you pointed out. I'm not here to speak to you about the need or adopting or the massive discussion, respectful and I think of great depth, that you've had about this policy. What I would like to mention is display. And the paragraph in the policy that defines and describes display. It's very brief, it's very broad, it's very nonspecific. I think probably by design, but at the same time, it's not really defining who's going to decide how large that banner is going to be that's allowed. I'm assuming it would be the village administrator, excuse me, so it doesn't have to come back here all the time. You might want to give that some consideration. My real point and why I'm really here is for the American flag and the 3 flagpoles that the village has. Village Hall, Public Safety Building, War Memorial, Village Green. It is my opinion, as you proceed with a demonstration policy, as you've been wonderfully discussing, that you hold our 3 primary flagpoles for exclusive display of the American flag and what it stands for. I believe that there are multiple other ways that we can achieve the display and the level of concern, openness that you folks have been so wonderfully discussing while we hold the American flag and our primary flagpoles as a single point of display of our government symbol. I'm sure you're aware of the flags that are displayed in our downtown area, currently by the high school, Scouts, American flag, other organizations. The Christmas tree we talked about a little bit ago in the gazebo display, that'd make a wonderful place to fly a flag. But please do hold our flagpoles. I would suggest on page 4 of the document that you received that lists the current 8 identified items, I think it's the 4th column, deals specifically with flagpole location. Right now, it just identifies the War Memorial Village Green flagpole, and it lists 7 of the 8 is no, and it allows the flag of one of these very wonderful situations to be honored. I would suggest, as you proceed, an amendment to what you have before you, where you would change the heading of that column to the Village Hall, Public Safety Building, Village Green, War Memorial flagpole, and you list no for all of those. I think that is, this part of it would be the simplest way to deal with the issue that I suggest to you. Other than that, I've watched this discussion since the beginning. I think you're all to be congratulated on the depth of concern and attempt to do the right thing for our village, which you always do. And I greatly appreciate it. And as I said, this is not, and I am not advocating for or against the policy. I'm speaking solely for the American flag and our flagpoles. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. Do we have any more comments online?
Mr. Porter?
Oh, no. No.
It's okay. It's fine. We love him. He's unmuted. Let's go here.
Well, too bad.
We love Todd.
Let's try this again. Here we go. Mr. Porter? We can't hear you. Your viewing on our system is unmuted. Can you unmute yourself? There you go. We can hear you now.
There you go. Well, I would like to observe that I'm a pretty, motivated observer of village policy and village issues. And, I didn't know about this issue until Susan brought it up to me this afternoon. And I have other village residents here who have never heard about this issue. And, the reason you had people yelling at you about pickleball is because you shut down the pickleball courts. And that was a concrete measure that affected their lives. And you could make this policy decision now and, 5% maybe of Lake Bluff will know about it, but 95% won't know about it until they see a flag up there. And that's when you'll hear what the people of Lake Bluff think about it. And, that's the reality of this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. Anybody else to recognize? No.
I've been clear about my position on this. I'm aligned with Trustee Fisher and thinking that we could manage whatever comes forward from this. I do think, though, with what I'm hearing, that I feel like we can also keep working on this. I hope we could keep working on this. I hope you're not saying you're taking it off the table, but maybe that you'll keep working on it.
I think it's a conversation that's important from my perspective. The fellow was here, Mr. White, he suggested he paid the first $500 to get a new flagpole. We have a flagpole someplace that I think at least that's worth discussing. I also thought Mary Cole's idea of generating support for grassroots community effort to more clearly express our concern. I saw the mental health awareness things downtown that touched me deeply a year or two ago. Those were beautiful, and they were all over town, and to me that seemed more meaningful than anything we might put on a flagpole. So I think, yes, we can continue to work on the policy, but I think as community leaders, there's lots that we can do to try to reach the people who feel marginalized. I do feel strongly that we need to do that, and that, in my opinion, this is just not the way to do it. Reasonable minds can differ on that, I suppose.
So one important point David made to me today, and David and I talked on the phone, was there's the intent of a policy that is recognize, welcome, love, but basically the intent behind this policy, and there's the delivery of this policy, the implementation on this policy. So David was very specific about telling me, no, I support this policy intent. I do not support the implementation that is was 3 flagpoles. We spoke about where you find the scout flags on Scranton. We have specific spots for it, and we have 20 of these. And you guys know what happens. I never know the date, but that just happened magically in town. It's another possibility. No, we have a choice of implementation.
So if one of the two of us made a motion to amend this to 20 flags instead of 1 on all the light posts up and down the Scranton, would you all support that? It's not the main flagpoles?
In other words, excluding the flagpoles, but saying government village display on government property.
I think I could personally support that. However, I also do have the concern that the community is not aware of this issue. So I would like a more full discussion of that. And we'll probably get impassioned people on both sides, frankly. That's the difficulty, right? And it feels like, to me, having had the discussion is the important part. Then we get to exercise our decision. But I think until we've had people feel the opportunity to talk about it, that it's premature for us to do that. But I prefer that to the flagpoles, I guess. That's.
So, Susan, we had the committee of the whole. We have had multiple meetings, unqualified meetings until now, and we have today's conversation. So to Todd's point, 95% of the people will not know, don't care or do not want to show up.
We don't know. The publication, I'm sorry to interrupt.
But my point is, what makes it that next time we have a meeting and have a committee of the whole, that more people will show up. And so the point is, we have had the conversations, or we have had as much conversation. The convergence to the ideal conversation is right here. There's nobody showed up, and we have had comments, but we have addressed those comments. So the point is, we represent the community. We respond to the community. We can make a decision to the best of the intent, to the best of our knowledge. And so maybe it's not the 3 flagpoles, and maybe this is whatever it is, but we need to be tentative, and we can revise our decision in the future, saying, okay, that's fine, that didn't work. But at least let's get to a decision that would make sense for what we know today.
Frankly, Regis, since between the last 2 weeks, I've spoken with people about this a lot, and I've spoken with people who are very like-minded to me. And I fall more in line with Taryn and with Shanna. However, those people had a problem with it. And one of them is a former trustee who lives in my neighborhood, and she's very middle of the road. She didn't even know it was up for discussion. She too follows this. The other people I've spoken with were not comfortable with it. One of them was Jewish. This is something that the community is voicing. It's not that I'm not listening. I did listen.
So your point stands, actually.
You were talking about mental health, right? You got very emotionally and
Yep.
upset about the suicide rates.
Yep.
In the recitation of months that you are including, there was no mental health awareness month that could encapsulate things on a greater level for more people than just the 10% that you are assuming are LGBTQ in Lake Bluff. So it's not that I'm not informed. It's that I made a decision based on information since 2 weeks have passed, because people are becoming more aware of it, and because I wanted to know.
And that is fair, by the way. And that is actually a fair point you're making. And so we are here to make a decision. Okay, that's the basic point at the end of the day. And if a decision is we don't want to see it, and so be it. And I'm actually fine with that. By the way, I'm not voting, but if a community says, no, we don't want to see it, then fine, this is what happens. And so I'm actually very clear with that, where we're going to call for a vote. And if a vote is no, we're not doing that, simple.
Yeah.
And so that's where I stand. And I am really clear about democracy and really clear about what the voice is. And so I respect what you said,
The newsletter that goes out on Friday simply said public display. I don't have the quote in front of me, but it was fairly unassuming. Didn't really alert people that the flagpoles were going to have other than government flags on them. So whether anybody reads the newspaper or newsletter or not, they would have had to go to the agenda and open the...
Which isn't on the website, by the way.
The agenda?
No, not for tonight. I was just looking for it.
I didn't... Oh, that's where I thought it was.
I didn't pull... The last agenda that was on there was 512.
Oh, I have
The
528
website.
on
It's
mine.
fair. I looked at it today.
Yeah, they would have to go to the... So
it's 5:12.
fundamentally, it's speech that we're the arbitrators of, and I feel very confident in speaking for the 4 people in my household who I spoke to. I don't feel comfortable speaking for the 6,000 other people who I haven't spoken to. Nor do I feel comfortable that they have had the opportunity to express what I assume is going to be vehement positions on one side and vehement positions on the other for me to consider and then make my best decision. In any event,
For me, I would be absolutely open to continuing to look for solutions here that prove and show to the village of Lake Bluff that we are an inclusive community that welcomes everybody. I think that's a great idea. I think the order of things is for us to get aligned on what that means and how to do that and to share that with the community and get feedback. But it's hard to share something ambiguous with the community. It has to be something that we kind of are feeling good about and then get feedback.
So what you're saying is, let me rephrase that, and what Susan said, and maybe what Kat said a little bit, that is, our agenda did not show LGBT pride flag display on the green, it said community display. That's basically the point. And rephrase me, I mean, please contradict me as necessary. And so
I think that's Susan's point.
yeah, it was one,
Sorry,
resolution, a resolution adopting a policy for display on village property is the way it's worded. And it's not that it needed to identify that it was LGBTQ. It was resolution that would place flags other than government flags on the flagpoles.
But that's not what this is. In fact.
Well, it's not all of what it is, but that's.
On our list, it's one flag. The rest are just giving us permission to display. But here on this policy list, it's one. It's the LGBTQ flag.
And the reason that one is on, my thought when I looked at that chart that David pulled up just now was that was the only one that had been requested thus far. It wasn't we were saying if these others were requested, we would be no. Right. It was just the only one that had been requested. Right. So we are, by having them listed in the policy, presumably going to approve it. If somebody comes and says, I would like to recognize Black Heritage Month in February, and we would look at our policy and say, thank you very much, we'll take that flag and put it up. But yes, the one request we have in front of us is for that. I thought the chart was somewhat confusing because it looked like we had determined no for everybody else. But in fact, no one else has asked.
I did prepare another chart that said TBD.
Yeah, TBD is better.
That's
right.
Yeah.
Upon request.
And admittedly, the agenda was rather opaque, if you wanted to, right? Maybe that's a way to describe it.
And
Yeah.
therefore, when
Unintentionally, just that's, barring the language at the top of the policy, that's, so.
and so as to the polls, I think where the Lake Forest flag is, Lake Forest High School flag, that makes a lot more sense to me to have non-government flags on the light poles. That seems like it makes a lot more sense to me. So that seems easier for us to resolve. It has these other issues about the next request, but somehow the flagpole is a real hot-buttoned issue. I think it really gets a lot of attention from people.
So we have about 4 possibilities, or getting my count wrong, but bear with me on that one. I will try to summarize the different possibilities from this point on, okay? And bear with me because I'm trying to run a meeting. Number 1, we vote on it as it is today. Okay, that's the first possibility. My sense is that's going to be a no, and we'll be done with the issue. That's basically my assumption. Number 2, respecting what David was basically hinting, we separate implementation from the essence of a policy, that is the intent, that is, we want to support, we have not decided how. That's number 2. That means a change of policy to say, a revised policy sent back to staff saying, remove implementation, and we vote, and then we'll choose how we want to implement that. Possibly, I don't know how. I have not thought about that.
Pride pups.
What's that?
Pride pups.
Mary's pride pups.
For example, but basically we want to support, and whatever that means. Number 3, we drop it.
Well, number 3 also is expanding the community conversation, and I don't know what that looks like. Is it us independently holding a town hall, inviting people to, being more transparent with the language? I personally feel the language is perfectly transparent. Follow along, read what, you know what a display means. You know what government property means. If you're opposed to the flag being flown on government property, you're probably gonna come in and say something about it. But if that's the concern, let's bring them in. Let's make it more clear.
So we have 4 choices. Vote, number 1. Number 2, revise language. Number 3, drop it. Number 4, expand to community as your last point.
You could send it back to a workshop to regroup and make this decision there. The idea of, and I can bring information at that time to talk about, because I think people are saying the street lights, and I think actually meaning like the poles, we actually have drilled holes in the concrete to accept American flags and Lake Forest High School flags. And that's where I think people were talking about. We stopped putting things on our street lamps because people kept walking into them.
Yeah, that's right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah, so we talked about this 2 years ago. In fact, that was a potential back then. One of the things that we talked about that came up at the tri-board meeting was having a community listening session on the topic. That came up, and so that's another way to spread the word and invite public comment on it. But we could have all that at a workshop at the upcoming future and talk about what do you want to do and how soon you want to do it.
Point of order. I'm totally okay with continuing the conversation, but since we have a motion and a second, don't we have to vote on it?
We do have a motion and a second unless we do a friendly amendment and do another motion on top of that. Like nothing's been acted on, so you could act on the motion and then just do, if you wanted to vote on it, and do another motion, or you could just do a friendly amendment to the motion with a second, as long as the board is all aware of what the motion is being voted on. Does that make sense? It's just
Yes.
Okay.
Drew, a workshop, is that everybody here? Is that a select fee? Are we creating a subcommittee to kind of explore and make a recommendation? I mean, because that would make sense to me, that some cross-section of folks here get together, they take all this feedback and try and come up with something that makes sense. Or is
So I'm trying to read your body language to actually get to a consensus. I sense a workshop. So basically, expand or revise language or workshop to achieve that might be a strong possibility at this point. I see Suzanne kind of saying yes, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of, I'm trying to imagine what that would be like. But I do think that kind of listening session, if we're deigning to speak on behalf of the constituents, I think we have to be open to hearing what the constituents have to say.
Yep.
To answer Trustee Rappin's point, the idea is that the workshop doesn't necessarily have to be the whole committee, the whole, or the village board. It can be
Doesn't have to be
two or three members. It would need to be 2 or fewer to be non-public, but if it's more, then we'd have to hold the open meetings and do all that, which is fine too. You can do that. It's just harder to get together when you have more people involved, right? And things may move faster if it's just 2 trustees who may want to get together and talk about it.
So, Kat,
I have a question. So can't we just vote and then you guys we can bring it up when we workshop it and it's worked through and the public comment is here and maybe we have a whole nother committee on it, but shouldn't we vote now to make it?
Why wouldn't we amend it so that we are including a workshop, so that it's not
Just
totally
no?
on the back, yeah, I mean, unless that's what your intent is.
So we're amending it to basically
Fair.
say the next step is a workshop.
Yeah, you could do that. You could, as long as it's clear, like, you could structure the motion to just, because right now, the motion on the table is to approve the current resolution, which is the current policy before you, so.
With the Arab American
With
edit.
that included.
With that included, and so that's the current motion on the table. So it would be a motion to, I guess, approve a workshop of the amended resolution on, or that's on, yeah, for public displays, where I don't have the, on, yeah, public displays on village property. Thank you. If that makes sense. So you're essentially, we're amending the motion to.
No longer to approve the policy in front of you, but to refer it to a workshop.
Correct.
What he
That-
said.
Yeah.
And that would be, and that would be, need to be done by the person, which would be Taryn and then Shayna, who seconded the motion.
Yes. Which-
So, I'm sorry.
No, please, because this is important.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say to Kat's point, I would support just voting on this today and then bringing forth a new resolution that had acceptable language.
I agree.
And I would be supportive of every group that we have on here in another way. So the 20 flags, I would be supportive of that if it was open and fair to everyone who wanted to bring their issue the same way.
I would think, I would recommend there be a small task force or some, a small group to work on this, to bring it back, to be more efficient.
We can't do that without,
Clear direction.
we cannot make a committee. We cannot make,
Two people. Is that the task force? Two people on the board?
so what, we can just make a task force without, we can't vote on a task force today.
No, but I think a task force of a couple of trustees could bring something to a committee, the whole meeting, and say, hey, we kicked this around, we talked to others, we developed this, and bounce off a different approach.
Okay.
Or you can send it back to the entire committee of the whole. Work through it.
I mean, I think ultimately, that's what has to happen. It has to go back. So I don't know, that's why I have a problem with not voting on the resolution as is, because it's not, this isn't, we have to make a decision, and then we can.
Are you saying that, so we vote, I'm trying to understand, I'm not trying to do anything else. We vote on this without a change, and then we get feedback from the community, and then we re-vote on it again to modify it? Is that what you're saying?
Right, vote on it as it is, have a task force, and then have it represented if it's reworked in COW.
It would be presenting a new resolution.
Correct.
Right.
Or
Different
a different
Different
way
policy.
to, yeah, different policy or
I
approach.
feel very like stuck in this policy framework, and I'm not comfortable with that without voting on it.
Well, the policy that came out of the workshop could be something totally different.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So why not just vote on this as is and then go workshop it and come back?
I mean, just, the reason is so we don't have to vote on this. We just say, you know what? We have a good idea that this isn't going to pass. Let's let a couple of our members work on something that they think incorporates all of the feedback here and is palatable, and bring that to a COW meeting.
I mean, my problem with that is what Taryn said, we're not gonna have a task force of more than 2 people, so I don't know how that's going to be very.
But they do footwork, and then they bring it to the COW to have a broader discussion.
Sure, but you can still do that and vote tonight. You can still kick it back to COW.
So if you want to put, if that's what you want, Kat, if you want to make a record that you're voting no to it, then,
I have no problem making that
yeah,
record.
I mean,
Doesn't matter to me.
it matters greatly to me. I think it's really a shame, because it says something to the public right now. It says we'd rather shut it down and make the two of us do this inefficient step of coming back with a new, fresh start. But let's do it. Let's do it.
We could have, instead of that, I mean, yes, we can do that.
Oh, yeah, we will do it. We will. And you guys will have to deal with it again.
Well, nobody's saying they don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Kind of.
We're dealing it with it in a way that you don't like, which is
No,
different.
I think by voting no right now, it is an active step to dissuade action. if we keep it alive, but subject to public discourse for rewriting, then it is still on the table. That is what that is. That is why I'm passionate right now. But if you want to shut it down, that is a very clear statement.
Well,
So, you know.
Well, one thing we can do is, yes. What we can do is transform this to be a next step of a committee of the whole. Let's have another discussions. What I'm afraid of is by sending two people out in the wilderness is these two people will come back with a fresh recommendation that will again be subject to scrutiny and questions, and will go nowhere.
For one thing, both Rafi and I are a no, but for very different reasons. He thinks it's too exclusive, and and wants to include everybody as soon as we include one. And I'm like, I don't want to include everybody. I just want these people. So I don't know how you rectify those, because he's thinking if we go here, then the door's wide open to everybody, and that's not where I am at all.
And that's why I don't think it's shutting it down. I just don't agree with this policy. So if you want to come with a different policy, it's cleaner to me to just vote, come back with a new policy that's been workshopped, that's been talked about at COW. It doesn't mean it's dead. It doesn't mean that you're not listening to what anyone else is saying. It just means as is, which is what is before us. We don't agree.
I'm disappointed because it has been workshopped at COW and otherwise, and now we're approaching June. So it feels kind of disingenuous, frankly. But I truly just want us to move on with this meeting. And, you know, again, respect that this has been the longest, most fruitful discussion we've had in probably 2 years. This is what I come here for and what I think our community expects of us, you know? So I don't mind, you know, don't take my frustration as anger. I have a very strong feeling about it, but I'm happy we're having the discussion.
So we have two directions from here, okay? We can say, okay, fine, we'll have another, we can vote on it and bring it to another discussion, whatever that means, two people or a whole committee of a whole, or we can amend this resolution, this motion to say, no, let's pause where we are. Let's have another conversation, committee of a whole. We get a chance to reframe, to reform, to refactor that policy to what we think is more appropriate. We get to have this other meaningful conversation. I'm actually fine with that because it represents what we hear outside. And then we have another one of these where we say, okay, fine, this is what we want. And I think this is actually genuine. I think it actually represents, it actually handles our uneasiness with what is right here, you know? And I'm sincere on that. Where do we want to go from here? What do you guys want?
I'd like to vote tonight and continue the conversation after that. That's how I feel.
I would like to table it and continue the conversation, but
Okay.
I can do either.
Vote or table.
I think everybody knows what I want to do.
I'd like to keep working on it.
Okay, now I have to take
Excuse me,
notes.
just to be clear, I'd like to keep working on it too. But I
Okay.
still think we should vote tonight and keep working on it and then come back. So I don't want it to be confused that I don't want to continue to work on it. I
Yes.
do.
Yeah, and I'll support, let's vote on it and let's all agree that we're going to
Wait,
continue working on it.
I have no clue where we are.
What's that?
You do? So I'm trying to keep up. So, okay, do we have a consensus that we want to keep working on
You
it?
don't have a consensus on anything, but I think Shayna and I are going to talk, we're probably going to go have a drink in a little bit. And,
Or two.
yeah, and if you all want to just take the vote, take the vote.
Okay,
Put
wait,
it on the record and take the vote.
wait a
We've got
second.
3 in support of a vote and 3 who want to table.
We have a motion,
Yeah, so.
and we might as well vote on the motion.
So I'm unclear, who wants to continue working on it? that is what I'm.
Everybody,
We all want to continue
everybody.
working
Everyone
on
wants to
it.
continue working.
It's just
on it.
whether or not we
A
want to
different
vote.
view
Do we
of how
vote
to,
or not?
So,
Yep.
I
so
think we gotta vote.
if the consensus is take the vote
Yeah,
and make, force us to be a little more engaged and annoying,
yeah.
then that's okay.
So we're gonna vote.
Yeah.
We're gonna vote, and this is a roll call. I mean, this is a voice vote.
Oh.
You need to make a roll
We
call.
need to do a roll call on that. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fried?
And we're voting aye. Yeah, we're voting for this.
I'm not telling you how to vote, but we're back to the part where we're voting.
Oh, yeah.
Trustee Hatch?
Nay.
Trustee Rappin?
Nay.
Trustee Ryder?
Nay.
Trustee El-Shamaz?
Nay.
And Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Thank you. From a procedural standpoint, so the recommendation to the staff now, to staff and to Drew, is to organize a committee of the whole next for discussion. Is this correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, that is recommendation to the staff. Thank you.
Got it.
Next item on the board is,
19.
that would be 19. A resolution approving a professional engineering service agreement with Baxter and Woodman for Phase 2 final engineering services agreement for Green Bay Road reconstruction project.
And if you wanted to be efficient, you can take both of these at the same time. It's
Yeah.
the same firm, it's the same work. One's the bridge, one's.
I can do that?
Yep, let's do it.
I can do that. So for 18, and there is a problem with there were two item 10, so I'm super careful about
The
that.
numbering, you mean?
Yes. So we're talking about on the
Other business,
agenda,
19 and 20.
it's going to be 19 and 20, okay?
Yep.
with roll
So
call.
can I please have a resolution for 19 and 20 at the same time?
A motion.
A motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. The Village of Lake Bluff previously approved agreements with Baxter and Woodman to complete Phase 1 and the majority of Phase 2, design engineering for the Green Bay reconstruction project. The engineering that was completed under these agreements helped the village obtain a $3.9 million grant from the Surface Transportation Program Shared Fund that will pay for 80% of all eligible construction costs. The village share of the construction costs will be $1.3 million. With the grant secured and the project scheduled to begin construction in the spring of 2026, the village requested that Baxter and Woodman submit a proposal to obtain all final IDOT approvals and finalize the plans for bidding. Baxter and Woodman submitted a proposal to complete the work on a time and material basis for a fee not to exceed $87,200. The village fiscal year 26 budget contains adequate funding for the project. It is recommended that the board approved the Phase 2 final engineering services proposal from Baxter and Woodman for an amount not to exceed $87,200.
That's for the road portion, and for the bridge portion, which is item 20, the dollar amount is.
Not to exceed $68,039.
And the long story short of this, we've been wrestling with the state to get past SHPO, to get past the historic preservation issues with the bridge. We're finally there, and now we can move forward 4 years later. And which has resulted in, because it's taken so long at the state, is we originally were gonna do the bridge first, then the road. Now we have to flip that, do the road first and the bridge second. Jeff's here if there's any questions.
No questions from me.
Questions on the board? On my right, on my left? Jeff, any comment you would like to make to the board?
No, I just, excited to get started next year on Green Bay Road. We're gonna do the road up to the bridge going north, the first year, the second year the bridge, and then that section south of the bridge will go then, so.
We did consult with the school district about doing this and the busing and all that, that this is their preferred approach.
And one question I always have, you have busing that will have to go through Lake Forest to bring kids to Lake Bluff. What about, fire and police operations?
And we will coordinate that with them. That's going to be a big deal when that bridge is closed for 6 months. Yes, everybody who lives south of the bridge in the Wimbledon area and in the houses on Green Bay Road will be greatly inconvenienced. The buses will have to route through Lake Forest, but we will go with a plan with the public safety folks for how they're going to cover those areas.
Eric, do you have a comment to make on that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear him.
When we close the Green Bay Road Bridge going to Lake Forest for 6 months, you're gonna work with Lake Forest and adjust how you get to calls.
Yeah, because of their one neighborhood.
Yeah, the short story is I know the fire EMS, I mean, Lake Forest is already our exclusive ambulance service provider. They have plans in place to address these, similarly with mutual aid responses for police.
Yeah, we work, obviously you all know, we work very well and closely with Lake Forest on mutual aid stuff. And we've had, I believe Chief Smazinski has already even had some of these discussions with Chief Burke about one neighborhood basically that will need some police services because we just won't be able to get there. But these discussions are happening, and that at some point we will return the favor, because at some point they'll have a neighborhood that's blocked, which happens. So, I'm not. The discussions will finish, and I'm sure we will put some pen to paper to make sure that everyone is protected by police services some way or another.
Thank you, Eric, and sorry to put you on the spot for
No, that's okay. I'm
Thank you
sorry.
so much.
My ears aren't that great, so I didn't hear exactly what he said.
I do have a quick question. Will that mutual aid cost us any money? Should we be budgeting for that in a different way?
The discussion has not come up, as far as I know. I don't think so, because we, like for the 4th of July parade, we have some Lake Forest assist us, and then in their fireworks and stuff in the evening, we'll send guys over there. It's never been about funds and stuff. We find ways to share.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. It is going to be a roll call vote if there are no more questions on the board. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Hatch?
Aye.
Trustee Rappin?
Aye.
Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Trustee El-Shamaz?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
And Trustee Fried?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item is actually 3 items. That would be a resolution approving an amended and restated easement agreement by and between the village and the owner of 697 Bluff Road, 665 Maple Road, and 700 Mountain Road, if I can do that.
You may, somebody can.
Good. Yeah, I was gonna ask if you could do that,
Okay.
so I'll make a motion that you combine those.
Can I please have a second on this motion?
Second.
Thank you.
If you want me to summarize really quickly.
That would be great.
So this is all related to the Deep Tunnel project. The village has been working with these neighbors for a very long time, and we've reached an agreement in principle, and we think the business terms are as good as we're going to get with the neighborhood. And these specific property owners, 2 of them have easements on their property going back to the 1960s, and we're looking to restate those. The other one's a new temporary construction easement. We only need a couple of feet along the distance of their property to do the project, but there's no permanent easement needed for us. These agreements are standard forms we have. I put in front of you some minor modifications that we worked through with the owners of 700 Mountains with their attorney just tonight.
Yeah.
And having to deal with the village. They asked for the village to name them additionally insured during construction and to indemnify them to the extent we're allowed to by the law, which is not very far at all. And so, but that's what they wanted, and so we put that in there, and we imagine the other property owners may ask for something similar, but pretty close to this. And the way this is set up is that you're authorizing the village attorney to work with them to finalize this. If it's something that's substantially far from the terms of this, we'll bring it back to you, but we don't expect that to be the case. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions to Drew on this item?
No.
It is a roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee El Shamaz?
Aye.
Circle three here. Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Fried?
Aye.
Trustee Hatch?
Aye.
Trustee Rappin?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item is and last item, resolution item, is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental, if I can say that, agreement by and between the Village of Lake Bluff and the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission for the West Scranton Avenue Viaduct Project Phase 1. Is there a motion to approve a resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. In June of 2024, the Village and the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission entered into a preliminary intergovernmental agreement for the partial funding of Phase 1 of the Village's Scranton Avenue Viaduct Drainage Improvement Project, the Deep Tunnel Project. Since that time, SMC has successfully secured funds from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Stormwater Capital Improvement Program for project through Lake County. With this funding secure, that is a great news, and I was wondering, the village attorney has worked with SMC's attorney to refine the attached IGA to provide the village with $2.75 million of funding to partially pay for Phase 1 of the village's estimated $3.9 million project. Subject to approval of the IGA, the village plans to bid Phase 1 of a project this summer. The current phase of a project will include the work in Lilliandale and in the fall and winter of 2025 and work on East-North Avenue between Maple Ave and Moffett Road between March and November of 2026. The village fiscal year 26 budget includes adequate funds for this project. Village staff recommends the approval of the IGA to allow for the bidding of a project for construction.
Motion to approve?
Yeah.
You have a motion and a second.
Oh, we do.
Okay. Another motion.
Any happy dance or any questions to Jeff or?
Why don't we talk about really quick? So right now, we are close to going out to bid into this week.
Advertise, yeah, and be out to bid throughout June. Hopefully we'll award in July.
Which would mean a late summer, fall start. That work would last through the end of winter and then restart in the spring and summer and then be done with that first section.
Yeah, so Lilliandale will be closed this fall and winter, and we'll be in the street when weather allows in the spring.
I do have a question, and I'll keep it brief. What impact, if any, will it have on the viaduct itself, like underneath the viaduct, the path? I probably should know, and I don't remember.
That's going to be a few years away. I mean,
Yeah.
we're only going to get to Moffett right now. We're still negotiating with the railroad. They are being a little picky about how close to the footings of the bridge that we can put the pipe, and they're trying to route us in a little more expensive, less convenient way. So we're not exactly sure. Our plan was to put the pipe basically in the street, which would disturb the street longer. The railroad is saying push it further to the south and around in the open area, which would cost more, but would be less disruptive to the street. So we're still working on that with the railroad. As much as you can work with the railroad.
Outside the street, it would be that green area on the south side.
Kind of maybe even south of the path in the open, kind of the woods area. We're trying to avoid that because it costs more and we'll take out quite a few trees. But that's kind of our two options right now. One is in this basically center of the street, going through the viaduct and then going up to east-north, along the west side of Sheridan. And the other option that we don't favor is in the wooded area on the south side of the path and boring it underneath the railroad tracks and then boring it north along Sheridan Road.
Wouldn't that affect effectiveness of the project?
It would be equally effective because we would still run more drains into the street in a pipe, and a lot of the water that gets into the viaduct comes via the south.
Okay.
So we'd still be able to fill the pipe. I think that's kind of your question.
Yeah.
But it would it's more pipe footage and you pay by the foot.
Got it. Thank you.
And so we've got a draft letter ready to go out to the neighborhood tomorrow, I believe, to advise those, because we've been talking about this again for years. It's like Green Bay Road. We keep having, fits and starts with this and having community meetings and people move. And so we'll remind them, hey, this is coming. This is what it's going to be. And so for the first leg for this winter, mostly it'll be in Lilliandale. It won't be up on the streets.
It'll
other
be a
than
trucking disruption.
You'll see, trucks, equipment, materials moving back and
Down
forth.
Scranton again?
Mostly north. Sometimes Scranton. Probably we try to share the love.
Share the love.
Right.
Not too much, because we'll
Definitely
probably,
not
if we do our project, we'll narrow Scranton, and they won't be as suitable for trucking through Block 1, so we'll send more trucks either up Center or Moffett, Blodgett.
Yeah. Oh, 3.9 is a big number. Is there any concern about the estimate?
There's always concern.
You're paid to be concerned.
They seem pretty confident in that number, because with inflation and uncertainty, we check in a lot, and I think I'm a little skewed because our small projects have a lot more variation than larger projects. They've been talking with a couple of contractors who will probably bid this to try to make sure what we're putting out to bid is constructible and efficient. So I think they feel pretty good about it, as good as you can feel.
Great.
Thank you.
Roll call.
It's a roll call. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Ryder?
Aye.
Trustee El-Shammaz?
Aye.
Trustee Fisher?
Aye.
Trustee Freed?
Aye.
Trustee Hatch?
Aye.
And Trustee Rappin?
Aye.
Thank you. And that makes
We have a
this
close.
project to start. So thank you very much, guys, for getting this on for the village. Largest project again we're starting for the village ever. Next item, item 25, our trustees report. Do any trustee wish to make a report tonight?
I have a really short one. I promise it'll be really short, and I didn't know there would be so much discussion tonight. I wanted to just bring up the fact that I think a week or two ago, a dead tree fell on my street on West Blodgett in North Terrace. It was a big one, and it fell from the Tingley Oaks sort of forest area onto a moving car that happens to belong to, and thank goodness everybody's safe, a former trustee of our board.
Oh, no.
And, Matt came out, everybody was on it, it was taken care of. And again, I'm so grateful that nobody was hurt, the car was, but the person inside it is fine. I just want to bring up the importance of us addressing the issue of, we spend so much time talking about tree health, and we love our trees, and I just want to make sure we continue to discuss and maintain the removal and the safety issues when it comes to dead trees.
And thank you for Jake.
Scary.
To Jake for taking care of that.
Yes, amazing, thank you.
Any more reports on the board?
I have a quick one. This is my first meeting, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for making me feel so welcome to be here, and the last couple weeks, and welcoming my family as well. I look forward to working with all of you.
Awesome.
We're really happy
You're
here.
welcome.
Hi, I was curious if there's a resolution to item number 15.
Who's item 15?
It was approved as part of the consent agenda where it's all voted on at one time, numerous items, so it was approved.
Perfect, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And last item 26.
Oh, you sat here this whole time.
Oh, we-
I hope it was.
Hope it was for a merit badge.
Yeah.
Multitasking.
That was good.
Right.
You go.
Somebody definitely sent their young son.
To double check on if it was passed.
They could have been watching.
Oh, yeah, from last,
So funny.
yes,
I
totally.
was wondering what he was doing.
All right,
Okay, so
guys.
now-
So
Learned a lot.
It's okay, it's okay.
the last item is we have an executive session tonight.
Yeah.
Items 26, and so may I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act, and that upon The adjournment of a closed session, this regular meeting will be deemed to automatically be adjourned by the same vote without the conduct of any further business. Motion to go in session.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And this concludes the open part of the village board meeting. Thank you to anyone in
have a vote.
attendance.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Does
A
not
roll
conclude.
call. Okay, there's a roll call. Clerk, please call the roll. Sorry.
Sorry, trustee Hatch. Trustee Rappin.
Aye.
Trustee Ryder. Sorry.
Aye.
Trustee El Shamaz.
Aye.
Trustee Fisher. And trustee Freed.
Sorry for me being hungry.
Yeah.
And thank you. This concludes the open part of the village board meeting, and thank you to anyone in attendance.
I'm just gonna look at sandwiches too to see.
Hold on a second.